Hey everybody, so this is Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. So I was commissioned to read this book. I'm trying to see when it came out. 1977, it won the 1977 Newbery Award. So it's, as you can see, it's about this black family in the middle of the Great Depression. And that's basically like award bait for the Newbery people, because it's really a tough book to get through in that it deals with a lot of racism, and that's basically the main theme of the book, is that we have this black family that just puts up with so much racism. I mean, these flames are sort of a reference to I'm not sure what this group is. They were like called the Writers. We see them in chapter 2. They basically killed some black people because these white guys got drunk and thought it would be fun. And that's sort of the world that our characters live in. Our main character...
So is the Writers just like another name for the Ku Klux Klan, or is that just like a separate group?
It wasn't really explained. I thought it could be the Klan. That was chapter 2, like I said. So she looks out her window and she sees them coming up. It doesn't sound like the Klan. It looks like people that just drive in cars and set things on fire.
Okay, well...
Mm-hmm. And towards the...
So was it like hard to get through just because the topic was uncomfortable? Or was
the
it
topic
just like...
was uncomfortable. There are other things that people found uncomfortable. Like it uses the N-word all the time. And some people thought that was uncomfortable. I didn't have a problem with that because it's historically accurate. And apparently that's something that the author had to deal with a lot. She got a lot of complaints about that particular topic, and she's kind of sick of people complaining about it. It's like, yeah, that's sort of how people talked back then. She doesn't really feel the need to apologize for that. Another complaint I saw was people were complaining we went too much into this the backstory of the family. So basically... Cassie's grandfather, or great-grandfather, who was born a slave like 2 years before the war, but actually the author, her great-grandparents were born slaves, so...
Oh, okay, so it's an African-American author then?
Yeah, it really felt more realistic that way. It felt like, the author was telling a story about herself, if that makes sense, although it's fictionalized, but it's like, well, the author, I presume the author grew up somewhere in the South. She's written other books about, the South and being black and such like that. I don't know when she grew up, so I don't know.
So what actually happens in the story?
Maybe it's semi-autobiographical, but I would give this book like a 9 out of 10, I'd say. It was really good. So basically it's sort of like a slice of life story about things which happen to this family. So I kind of like the slice of life episodes. So like chapter 1, they go to school and they get new books for the first time and they're very excited about it. And then they discover that they're not so much new books as in they're just cast off books that were, 10 years old and kind of given to them just because they're black. And another chapter, the school bus likes trying to run them down and like force them to jump on the side of the road, especially during the rainy season, so a bunch of mud gets thrown up on them. And so what our heroes do to get revenge is they sort of dig a ditch across the road, and it's very muddy, as I said. So unknown to them, it just starts raining crazy that day, and so when the bus comes and it hits the ditch, it just gets broken, and the white kids have to walk home, and... is basically they're stuck without a bus for 2 weeks. They kind of deserve a worse punishment because, they try to run over black people just for fun, but my favorite one was this one girl, Lily Jean. The back of the book kind of makes it seem like this would be a big deal because it's the only episode of racism which is really, say, personal to Cassie, where somebody's personally going after her. As opposed to, I just hate black people in general, it's Lily Jean kind of hates her in specific, because Lily Jean's brother is Jeremy, who's actually a nice guy. He's a white guy, and he's friendly with these folks, even though his friends hate him for it. They even beat him up for it. But Lily Jean kind of hates them already because her brother likes them. Typical, 12-year-old, I guess. My brother likes you, I don't like you. But basically, she kind of forces Cassie to walk off the road, and her dad basically grabs Cassie by the arm behind her back and like tries to hit her in public. And so Cassie
Why does he do this?
Because this black girl accidentally bumped into a white girl who was his daughter and did not apologize right away for something that wasn't her fault. That's something which happens a lot in this book. That was another complaint, that the narrator is a little naive. I'm not sure if naive is the correct word, but she doesn't seem quite get this world. She's very still outraged about any sort of racism which comes up, whereas you imagine another narrator would be more world weary and just say, okay, well, that's the way of things in the world. And there are some characters in the book like that. Like, you can go through the themes of how these various characters react to racism, like how her mother does, how her father does, her uncle. Her uncle's the guy who's really angry and basically just wants to beat up anybody whenever he gets mad. Anyway, getting back to the story of Lily Jean. Cassie basically just plays her like a fiddle, and she goes up to her and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Basically pretends that she's really, really sorry and basically acts sort of like a servant to her for like a month. And Lily Jean is very happy about this, and she tells her all sorts of secret and gossip while she, carries her books every day and does her hair every day and such like that. And then at the end of the month, Cassie leads her into the woods and then beats the crap out of her and basically forces her to apologize. She specifically punches her in the side and things, like not in her face, so there are no visible marks. That's basically
such a girl thing.
Sits on top of her and uses all this, information that she freely gave as blackmail. It's like, you're not going to tell anyone, otherwise I'm going to spill all your secrets. And besides, people are going to laugh at you. You got beat up by a girl who's 4 years younger than you. And
but she's white? Is that the thing?
Yeah,
okay.
no, Lily was... And so that was just... It just kind of blew Lily's mind. I really like that scene, too. But the general story is more about her parents and their relation to the land. There's this guy who used to be a plantation owner, kind of still is, and he basically wants the land back because that's what his family had before the war. And he's basically running a scheme with his family called the Sims. I don't know if this is what it was during the Great Depression. It probably could have been the case.
Was it sharecropping or something?
It's sort of like sharecropping, but it's more like he ran a line of credit at the store, too. So, like, the owner of the land would charge 50% of all the profit you makes on the land, and then all the rest of your money, all the profit went straight to his buddy, the store owner, because he had the line of credit for all of these people working his store. In that sense, is really not that different from slavery. That's the sense I got. It's like, yeah, they say you're free, but you don't own the land and you don't own any of the money that your labor pays for. And so our heroes, or their family, they actually do own the land, and that's something they're very proud of. They sort of try to set up I wouldn't say competition, but an alternate way to lift folks out of this situation. They basically say, hey, give us a list of all the groceries and the supplies that you need, and we'll go and buy them from this town that's 20 or 30 miles out. They have a car, so they can do this. And the white people don't like it. They do not like it, and that's sort of what it really just, the tension bubbles up for a really long time, and sort of at the end, I forgot to talk about TJ. Anyway, TJ basically makes friends with these white people who basically frame him for murder. Really, they break into the store and beat the store owner and the store owner's wife, stealing the money because they get caught stealing the money, and they just let TJ take the blame for it. They just say, "Oh, it's that black kid," and a mob shows up to lynch him, basically. And they try to stop him. The way the dad stops him
feels like they just take a lot of egregious examples of racism and roll them all into one story.
This book is a really long book, and it's a very well thought out book. That's obviously the stuff that stands out in my mind, but there's a lot more to it than that. But what Mr. Logan does is actually, we see on the cover, he sets his own cotton field on fire, basically as a distraction to stop TJ from getting lynched. And that's where the book sort of ends, because everybody realizes if this fire spreads, it's terrible. So the lynch mob stops and, digs a trench to stop the fire. And that's really symbolic that he's willing to destroy his own land, the land that he loves so much, in order to save this boy who's really kind of a jerk and got his wife fired and stuff like that.
The boy got his wife fired?
Oh, yeah, no, TJ, it's not his son. TJ's just
okay, because, I thought you were talking about the kid on the cover of the book.
No. TJ's kind of this jerk who's mean to the family the whole time, and he doesn't like the mom because the mom basically is a teacher who failed him. And so he sort of unknowingly or knowingly set up an excuse for the white people to get her fired, because they were already kind of mad at the family because of the whole running the separate store thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when the moment where the family just kind of stopped talking to TJ whatsoever. But that's the ending. The book kind of has an open ending, and that's a problem some people have. We don't know what happens next. TJ's been badly beaten up, and sure, the lynch mob didn't kill him. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. The book sort of ends there.
Okay.
But overall, I'd say it was a very good book. It's a very heavy-handed book, but a good book nonetheless. It sort of reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird, but from the point of view of a black girl, whereas To Kill a Mockingbird was written from the point of view of the white woman, or white girl. She was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was older when she... I think the framing of that book is that she's an adult who's writing about the adventures that she had when she was a child. Unless I'm mistaken. But that's not the book I'm reviewing. So, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. I thought it was a very good book. It's a very long book and might be, hard to read, like I said, because it deals with all these heavy racist things. But I feel that it's definitely a worthwhile read.